What's going on, everyone? Today I'm joined by Jason Bellini, also known as Sketch the Journalist. How you doing, Jason?
Good. Thank you for having me, Phil. I appreciate it.
Now, Jason, for many people that don't know much about you at all,
hmm
can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a freelance writer based out of the thriving country metropolis of Cut and Shoot, Texas. It's a real town with a real name, and it's as country as it sounds. But mostly what I cover is hip hop. I am a blogger for the Houston Chronicle. I do news segments for Wado Radio as a podcast, and have had articles published in Relevant Magazine and Christianity Today. So my angle specifically is Christian hip hop. That's probably the thing that I'm the most expert in, but I'm interested in talking to the name of my blog, the URL is I Talk to Rappers. So I talk to any kind of hip hop guy that has something valuable to say to contribute to the art and to what's going on in society. So
let me ask you a question. You stated that you are an expert. What made you become an expert?
I'm old and I've been listening to the music for a long time. So I've been listening to Christian hip hop since '86 is when I got my first cassette tape by a guy named Stephen Wiley. So I've just followed the movement for a long time. I don't rap, I don't make beats, but I do have a degree in journalism. I've studied writing, and that's the way that I feel I can kind of contribute and let people know about this music and the artists that are involved and the kind of content that I believe in and I think should be a part of the overall picture of what hip hop is.
So why do you think it isn't really part of what hip hop is? You say you think it should be part of it.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, hip hop is what's gotten popular in hip hop has kind of drifted away from its origins of being socially conscious and bringing people together. So now it's such a larger entity of being a business and what sells, and a lot of times that more conscious, positive, content-rich music just kind of gets pushed by the wayside in favor of dance music and what sells and what's kind of flashy. So unfortunately, I think just that message has gotten buried a little bit. So that's what I'm hoping my role is to bring more light to that and the artists that are speaking some truth, speaking something of value to the community and presenting that other side of hip-hop that doesn't always get pushed in the mainstream.
Well, no, you're 100% correct on the origins of hip hop, because I remember, I'm old enough to remember when it really became mainstream. And
Yeah.
yes, it was extremely conscious minded. And, it was more so something within the black community. It wasn't mainstream. And I've always said that the moment, hip hop went mainstream, well, they used to call it rap back then, I knew it was going to become a problem, because too many hands and got involved with it. It's going to take away, it's going to be what sells instead of just telling the stories of either what's going on in the community or, for a lot of us, it was telling the stories what's going on in the hood. That you didn't really have that story coming out except through that kind of music. So it wasn't, and even back then, it wasn't always extremely, yes, they said some vulgar stuff, but it wasn't as what they do today. Today, it has no message. It has no substance. As long as it sound good and the hook sound good, you're great. You can sell 1 million albums and it's no problem.
Yeah. And even quality-wise of just dictation, guys aren't even verbalizing their words very much that often, at least the stuff that you hear on the radio. My contention is that it always has been good quality hip-hop. It's just been harder to find. But with the advent of the internet, I think it's brought communities together. It's easier to connect and find that good hip-hop and quality content if you're willing to dig a little bit and look for it.
And there's this guy on Facebook named Crank Lucas. I don't know if you ever saw his videos, but he jokes a lot about, hip hop music. And he was showing like he did something with different eras of rap music, and he was showing like how they do it today. Like, hey, they don't say nothing. The lyrics don't mean anything. They on their phone, like just lying about everything.
Yeah.
So it's so hard now to watch a great thing that came about that, like you say, it brought a lot of people together. A lot of people like to dance to it. They don't even, matter of fact, they don't even dance anymore. I mean, the little things they're doing, like whipping, that's not no dancing. Like,
it's a one-move dance set, right? To dab and to do whatever. Like, that's not a whole dance, but yeah.
Yeah, it goes along with just the society we live in today, that everybody's just so simple-minded no more. It's like nobody want to think hard. Nobody want to really be creative. Everybody want to copy each other. And even you say maybe some of the Christian hip-hop artists, I look at some of them, and I'm like, what is some of the difference in maybe how they appear, with themselves a little bit versus some of your mainstream artists. It's like I don't. A lot of times in churches they teach you to, well, they of the world, we of the church. It has to be a difference between us. But can you speak on that why some of the Christian rap artists kind of look no different than maybe someone like Sauce Walker?
Yeah. Some of it, I think, comes from a perspective of it's not necessarily our dress or our presentation that differentiates us. It's our content and our life outside of the music. So just like me, because I'm wearing a hat doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a thug or just like some of those other guys. Or if guys are wearing saggy pants or jewelry, it doesn't necessarily make them any different than the world, I guess. So appearance, I think some of that comes from guys who say that appearance is not a good, clean differentiator, but they would advocate more like, look at the content of my lyrics, look at the way that I live my life outside of music. I'm faithful to my wife. I'm a good father. I invest in my community and in my church and help others. That's the kind of things that they want to differentiate themselves from the image that they see portrayed of mainstream hip hop, I think, in a lot of ways. So they just kind of discount the first visible appearance, but in a lot of ways, hopefully, that you dig deeper into the music and what they're about off the mic.
Well, let's talk about these Christian music rap labels. Now we know in the mainstream, a lot of the artists are getting signed to 360 deals. They getting money off of every show, every endorsement. Now, is the Christian rap labels doing 360 deals? Or are they doing a traditional deal like they used to just for the album, and whatever you make outside the album is on you?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it varies. One, although there are a couple popular Christian rap labels, there's not many that are big enough to be purchased by a large, some of the big three. They're not owned by Sony and that sort of thing. Reach Records, which is home to Lecrae, and he's part owner of that label, is probably the largest one. I don't know a whole lot about their deals, so I don't know if they sign 360 deals, but they don't. I don't know that anybody is really that big. I was talking to a guy yesterday, a Houston rapper, Corey Paul, and he's signed to Collision Records. And we were just talking about some of the aspects of his career. And it sounds like he still has to do – they help him push the music out, but he still has to do a lot of his own as far as putting together his tours, or he decided to make his album for free on a site called Noise Trade, and that was his independent decision. So I think for the most part, Christian hip-hop has a little more independence, and guys are maybe not as locked into those deep contracts as some of the mainstream is. They obviously don't get pushed as big as some of the mainstream labels, but hopefully they have a little more creativity to do it on their own. And a lot of guys I know are independent, and they like that independence of being their own label owner or being able to kind of craft their own career without getting into some of those bigger deals that can really hurt you if you're not a big major success.
Now, I was reading that you had worked for the New York Times out of Houston. Is that correct?
I did an internship there in between college and before I started my professional career. So yeah.
Now, how does it differ working with the New York Times? Like based off of what you wanted to do, is it something that you want to continue doing? Like, I would like to work in the New York Times or one of bigger publications.
Yeah, it was a summer internship, and I came at an odd time. They had a bureau chief, and they were in transition of that. So I didn't get to see as many headlines or get to work as deeply in that position as I did for the 3 months. But I did get a degree in journalism. I went to Sam Houston State University, and through that course, I knew that I really enjoyed writing, but I didn't necessarily enjoy the daily grind of newspaper reporting. So after college, I decided that I didn't necessarily want to go into work for a newspaper. So I worked for a marketing company and have a career now as more or less a corporate journalist. I work for an oil and gas company, and I do corporate journalism. I do corporate communications. So the hip-hop writing I do is outside of that, but it's a way that I can, again, kind of push the music and content that I really like and explore.
So oil and gas. So you work in the petrochemical industry. I have worked in that industry since around the year 2000.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm just about on my way out of it, but I'm still in it as of now.
Yeah.
So I know how the market's working right now with that, how it's declining.
It's tough.
people getting laid off.
Yeah.
It's just not pretty good in the industry right now.
Yeah. And I've been through that before. My previous job, I got laid off, and it was for another oil and gas company. And it's tough when you're here in Houston, but that's the big industry. And so I pray we see an upturn pretty soon.
Well, the only good thing about the all being down right now is if you are into buying stocks and you want to
Yeah.
start putting a lot of money in energy stocks, that way when they go back up to $100 a barrel, you're
Yeah.
going to make good.
Yes.
It's always a good and everything.
Yeah.
But talking about the Christian artists and things that you deal with. Do you think that those artists have a more fruitful career than maybe some of the mainstream artists do?
That's a good question. I guess it depends on how you define the word fruitful. I would hope that most of the Christian artists do feel that they are both fruit bearing and it's for others and for themselves, that they've done music, regardless of how monetarily successful they may be, that they've done music that they can be proud of, that honors their God, that honors their faith, and builds their community, and that they've done ministry through it. Not everybody who's a Christian and does hip hop considers himself a pastor, but hopefully they see that what they do adds a positive spin to the conversation. So I do hope that those guys have a lot more fulfillment than maybe mainstream guys do. We know I've interviewed a couple of guys that have achieved mainstream success and seen it not add a lot of value to their life. One guy in particular who will actually be in Houston next week is Malice from the Clips. Mm-hmm. He's a guy who was at the height of his success with his brother Pusha T, and they were produced by Pharrell. They were the guys of the Coke rap, and he's written a book and talks about just kind of the void that he felt even at the peak of his success, and realizing that it wasn't all the women, all the money, all the jewelry and stuff really didn't have a lot of fulfillment to him. So what he raps about now is much different than what he rapped about before. Although he does say that he always told the truth in his music. So, but it's been interesting to talk to guys like that. And back to your original question, I hope that a lot of guys who do include their faith in their music do come out of it feeling fruitful for themselves and for the music that they put out.
So you're saying that, a lot of them not pastors, but, you don't have to be a pastor. From what I've learned and for what I do, a lot of people are touched by certain things that you may say, and they may write you, down the line and say, I heard this song, or I heard what you had to say, and it helped me to, to get on, change my life, start doing better in school, stop bullying, all kind of different things. So, I tell people, you don't have to do what they consider traditional. And one thing I love about today is that a lot of the young people, you can't come to them with anything traditional anymore because they've been so exposed and they actually are so turned off by a lot of pastors and traditional church. You have to create new means to get to them. And that's what I respect about them. And I say this many times is that they can really see who real and who fake pretty quick due to the fact they have been exposed to a whole lot more. And these kids are a whole lot faster due to that.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing. What do you think that a lot of churches could do to maybe get a hold to the young people? Because you can't keep a church going with a bunch of elderly people, unfortunately, because the church is going to die off if you keep doing that. So what avenues do you think that churches should do to try to reach the younger people?
Yeah, hip hop is a good one. It needs to come from a place of authenticity, though. If you've got a cowboy church in Cut and Shoot, Texas, where I'm at, hip hop is probably not your main audience, and you bringing in a rapper is probably not going to do a lot of that. But if you are in a community where hip hop is popular, I think that can be a great avenue to get people involved to speak the language of the young people that are around. You mentioned before you've interviewed a friend of mine, Trey Nine, and I know he does a lot of outdoor ministry. He uses hip hop as a tool to let people know about Christ and his faith, but he actually goes out into the streets. He doesn't sit back and wait for them to come to him. He's got activities that take place weekly in places like Brookshire and in Fifth Ward, where he goes out and sets up in apartment complexes and does that sort of thing, which I think is really key. And I think letting them see that you are authentically a part of this culture and that you care about them and their values and what they believe in, and use that as a common ground to be able to present the truth that you've found in Jesus to them. I think that's a great way to do that. But again, if hip hop is not a part of your culture, don't think that that's going to be a magic key that you can just flip on, invite a rapper, and you're going to have a whole bunch of youth in your church. So.
Maybe in certain towns, but what I can say is hip hop is something that is kind of universal now. It's not just,
absolutely.
Relegated to the black community. So, correct. And really, to be honest with you, white people actually consume more hip hop than black people. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So obviously it's really out there now. And I think, like you said, some places maybe like cut and shoot, it wouldn't work. And I get that, because or some people wouldn't work they just use a tradition. And they don't want to hear nothing but choirs and all this other stuff. I've seen, Christian rock artists as well. I've seen them. And I haven't seen country yet. I'm not saying that it's not out there. I just haven't seen it. Now, maybe a Christian country artist working cut and shoot. What do you think?
Yeah, probably so. One thing that's unique, I guess, about mainstream country is they seem to embrace and be pretty open about incorporating their faith into their music. So you can have Carrie Underwood with a song like Jesus Take the Wheel, and that song gets played on country radio pretty easily, where hip-hop songs that seem to incorporate their faith seem to have a little more resistance to getting a broad stream kind of push. So it seems like there's not as much of a need for a distinction between a Christian country artist and a regular country artist, the way that hip-hop and Christian hip-hop might be a little more of an odd concept to some folks.
Now, you was talking about Lecrae, which he's very popular, and I'm surprised you don't hear him on 97.9, because he sounds like a mainstream artist, no different than any of them. Yeah,
especially, and he's from Houston. He was born and raised here. And he's definitely moved into more of a mainstream avenue. When he started, he was kind of on the church circuit and was known for being having a lot of Bible study kind of words in his music and that sort of thing. But the last couple of years, he's gotten definitely more popular and carved a lane. He had a #1 selling album last year, Anomaly, and that was the top of the Billboard charts, not just the Christian charts, not just the rap charts, the #1 album. He performed on Jimmy Fallon. So definitely I hope that more people latch on and get a part of the kind of music that he's putting out, as well as all the other artists who do similar great work.
So you think that in the Christian rap world, do you think he is like the standard now? Say, look what he can get to. That's probably what I need to do.
He's definitely somebody that people look at and admire. He's got a kind of a protege on his label, a guy by the name of Andy Mineo, who's also achieved quite a bit of success with mainstream. But Lecrae is definitely the top dog and has achieved more as a labeled Christian artist than anybody that we've seen so far.
So let me ask you a question. You write for the Houston Chronicle. You say sometime they print it. Is it you have a great relationship with them? Have they ever thought about bringing you on, permanently?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a position, a permanent position there. Basically, what I do is blog for them, and I've got free reign to publish the kind of content that I want. I kind of specialize in Christian hip hop, and my blog is connected to a section that they created a couple of years ago called Houston Belief. And for a while, that was even a separate print section. But they offered blogs to some local writers to get voices of a variety of different faiths. So there were bloggers that were Muslim, that were atheist, and I was just happened to be one of them. So, but that relationship has done well. One of the main editors who brought me in has now moved on to another media outlet. She works for Christianity Today, so it doesn't get the push as much as when I first started it, but it's given me a great platform to. I use my blog as more of a news outlet instead of like opinion or commentary. So I make that the main focus is that you're going to get Christian hip hop news and information from from my blog. But yeah, in that way, I've been able to pitch them stories. When Bun B was doing his hip hop and religion class at Rice University a couple of years ago, I was able to interview him about that and write about it for the paper. When he brought in Russell Simmons to talk to his class, I was able to cover that for the daily paper. So it's been a great opportunity to get that voice in the newspaper. And I'm not aware of any other major kind of mainstream publication that has an avenue or outlet like that. So I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, because, you have that journalism degree. I don't know why I'm thinking communications. Journalism degree, and I was just, thinking, I'm like, man, they should, I know oil and gas, we both know that's a hard industry, and
yeah.
but, you went to college, you got your journalism degree, so I was thinking, have you ever thought about, like, having a show like that on one of the Christian networks that you're doing, stuff with Christian hip-hop? Are they open to things like that?
Yeah, maybe so. Like I said, I do a weekly news segment and contribute to the website of Wado Radio, which is a weekly podcast and radio show. He's syndicated in about 25 markets. So that's one way I kind of contributed to it, but I'm a much better writer than I am voiceover guy or audio news guy. But it's a good way to help promote the information and let people know about the news that's going on here. But as far as a regular day job as a full-time reporter, it's still kind of up in the air. I don't know if there's a whole lot of support for that as a full-time position, but maybe it'll come.
Okay, Sketch, where can people find you if they want to contact you?
Sure. Like I mentioned, italktorappers.com is the URL. If you type that in, it'll redirect to my Houston Chronicle webpage. And on social media, I'm at Sketch the J, SKETCH the J. So Sketch the Journalist. That's where they can find me. I'd love to hear from anybody that's watching this, has questions about what I do or information, stories that I can report on. Let me know.
All right, Sketch, well, thank you for joining us today and taking up time to answer some questions. If anyone wants to contact Sketch and ask him a little bit more about what he is doing, make sure you follow him on the social media links and the website. So, Sketch, appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.